Superman 3 came out in 1983. This yet again follows the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, but this one takes a turn for the worse for a plethora of reasons, and reasons I will cover in this review. We're talking about the good, the okay, and the bad, etc., etc. And yeah, so to me, going through this movie, it feels like it would have better been suited as just a TV show. A TV show like a kid's first Superman. Because you have the other two movies, which are actually good, slightly intelligent movies with an actual plot that people actually care about. And then you just have Superman 3. Because after the success of Superman 2, they were like, okay, we have a good amount of money, let's just do whatever we want. So then, after a troubled production, they get this movie out. But it's just a complete mess. Again, like I said earlier, I do think it would have been better suited as a TV show, because, genuinely, it just feels like a bunch of Superman side quests split between, spliced together to form an 2 hour, 7 minute movie, including credits. And I feel like if they just split all that up, it would have been better. But still, we have to talk about the plot and everything, unfortunately, because there isn't really a whole lot to talk about in the plot. Anyway, so you have this guy, okay, and yes, and he's a bum. And he's played by an amazing comedian. But here's the sad thing. He's not used at all. You bring in a comedian to have him be comedic. He doesn't get a lot to do in this movie, but they try to build him up as this really important character. Yet he's not. He's like the middleman in this other guy's scheme that they used because they didn't feel like using Lex Luthor. They could have used any other villain, but they just created 3 brand new ones. And not that they're entirely awful. They just don't give them a whole lot to do to flesh out their characters. Anything. Their attributes. It's anything. They don't give it time to flesh out, and this is a really sad truth. It's that if they just give it more time to certain aspects, maybe this movie could have been better than it actually was. So, I said it felt like, Superman's side quests. You have this one part where it's like, he's going on this road trip for a high school reunion, okay? And, he has to save this one place because it's on fire. And then he has to go be evil for whatever reason. And then he has to go do the main plot finally. But then he has to reignite his relationship with his high school sweetheart. But then he has to save this kid from being chopped up in, like, a field or something. And, like, all this crap. And yes, getting chopped up in the field. I said that, and I glossed over that. Because the movie glosses over it itself. It gets resolved in a minute and a half. Which is probably a good thing, because it wasn't very interesting anyways. But anyways, so the main villain figure out a plan. Okay, we can make Superman evil if we just do all these things. So then that's what they do. And it's honestly it's the best, and just, it's the best part of this movie. And that's not saying a whole lot, but let's still talk about him. So he's evil, he's, fixing the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He's, flicking peanuts at beer bottles in a bar. Very villainous stuff. And it's funny, like, what they make Superman do in the movie, because, like, I don't know, it's just, like, they didn't know how to make Superman evil, and I think that's unironically and ironically funny at the same time, which kind of contradicts itself, but I don't really care. And then, there's this part where they're in a junkyard, and it's basically Superman fighting himself, and you have the good that lives in Clark Kent, and you have the evil that lives in the current version of Superman that we're seeing on screen. So they just fight in this junkyard, and eventually the good side gets the best of him, obviously. He fixes the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because, if he didn't do that, I don't know what we would have done with him. And then after that, he, goes to beat up the main villain. It is actually really cool later. It's a cooler final location for for a battle than I think any of the other Superman movies did. Maybe other than the second one, maybe. But, yeah, so he goes to this place, there's missiles launched, and this movie feels like a cartoon, kind of. Again, going back to that whole thing about the TV show. But, they literally use video game graphics to shoot at Superman. Because I feel like if they didn't do that, then they would have ended up using some crappy CGI effect that just wouldn't have worked in any possible way. So I'm glad that they used that. And obviously the villains are defeated. The guy that's played by a comedian had a change of heart. And he's like, thanks, Superman. And then he gets saved. And then he kind of just gets let off the hook. And it's like, so then he's like, okay. And he just runs away. But there's this really cool sequence where, this layer, and the layer itself starts to turn people into robots. The main villain's sister clings inside of this, machine, inside of this little thing, and starts getting turned into a robot, and this, cool stop-motion effect. It's like what they did in the second Superman when they were trying to turn him from evil to not evil. It's like that effect, and it is so cool. It's just cool. That's probably that is the best part of this movie. That is the best part of this movie, because it's such a cool effect, and I think it's just funny, and then he's just a robot, and then Superman's like, ah, and then, yeah, and the layer's a cool boss fight. It's fun. It's good enough. But yeah, guys, I'm basically just gonna leave it at that. If it's gonna be anything else, it's probably gonna be out of 100. This movie's gonna be a 40, this movie's gonna be a 53 out of 100. If you enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.